I just helped a lot. I picked up 19 to 20 points. A gentleman from Kentucky. The problem is he was, not a popular guy, but he was a great governor. He did a good job, but he wasn't a popular. And I actually picked him up by 19 or 20 points, but now I guess it's in dispute, the final race. It's very interesting. It was sort of a long shot.
The gentleman from Kentucky is Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin. He made no secret that he was hanging his re-election hopes on the popularity of the president. Bevin trails Democrat Andy Beshear by more than 5,000 votes, but he refuses to concede. Instead, he's challenging the outcome and asked for a recanvass. That's not a recount. It's a sort of a recount of the tallies. The AP report tonight, Trump faces potential trouble in areas that have generally sided with Republicans for decades. Coming amid an intensifying impeachment inquiry, they raise questions about Trump's ability to help other Republicans across the finish line. Here with us to talk about it all, Jason Johnson, politics editor at The Root, and Lanhee Chen, research fellow at the Hoover Institution and former presidential campaign advisor to both Marco Rubio and Mitt Romney. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. Lanhee, you take issue with the sentiment expressed in that AP report. You think that things, in particular in Virginia, were heading in a direction where GOP was at a disadvantage.
Yeah, well, particularly, I think Virginia, we can separate Virginia from Kentucky and Mississippi. Virginia was a state that Donald Trump lost by 5 points. Mitt Romney lost in 2012. It's a state that's been trending toward the Democrats. I think the challenge in Virginia is, though, the same challenge Republicans face elsewhere, which is that in the suburbs, particularly those northern Virginia suburbs around Washington, D.C., and now, increasingly, even the areas along the coast, there are areas that previously were very much Republican. Those areas are moving away from the Republicans, and that is a generalizable trend. But Virginia specifically, yeah, that's been moving away from Republicans for a while.
Jason, what do you make of the successes in Kentucky and Virginia? The president making the excuse that in Kentucky, Matt Bevin was unpopular. It's a fact. Matt Bevin was a remarkably unpopular governor. But should Democrats be able to take some joy in what happened last night?
I mean, Ali, anytime you get a victory, you should take joy from it. So I think the Democrats have reason to be happy. I think they have reason to be happy about the turnout in Virginia, the turnout that they saw in Kentucky. But I want people to really understand what's happening in Virginia. This is not just about convenient demographics in Northern Virginia, where I'm sort of sitting right now in the D.C. suburbs. We're talking about the Richmond suburbs. We're talking about the Hampton Roads area. I mean, the Republicans have been getting wiped out throughout the state of Virginia for a while, and it's because they haven't been able to prove that they can effectively legislate for the changes that are coming throughout the state. There has not been a Republican elected statewide in Virginia outside of one governor in almost 10 years. So they are in trouble there, and they need to rebuild that party. Now, what you saw happening in Kentucky, you got to be fair. While Beshear did win as governor of Kentucky as a Democrat, the attorney general ended up being a Republican. And so Republicans are not in as bad a shape in Kentucky as they are in Virginia. But there's still lessons to be learned for the Democrats, which is you can't take anybody for granted. You have to go out and campaign everywhere. And that's the only way you can be effective in states where many times voter suppression and early voting are limited.
Lanhee, is there any lesson for Republicans that Donald Trump can't pull everybody over the finish line?
Well, here's the problem. Donald Trump certainly activates a lot of the Republican base. He gets people out to vote. The problem is he also counter-mobilizes, right? He brings out a lot of people who don't have a high opinion of him and who, frankly, are probably there to vote against him. So I think the lesson learned is, yes, you can certainly hug Donald Trump in a state like Mississippi. But if you go elsewhere to a state, let's say like Colorado, where there'll be a very, very close Senate election next year, it's a different dynamic. You cannot hug him without also bringing out a lot of people who will vote against him and vote against Republicans.
Jason, in terms of what Democrats can learn from this, you said they've got to get out there, they've got to talk to as many people as possible. We are coming up against an issue with respect to Democrats having to confront what kind of Democrats they're going to be. This has broken out into the open this week with Biden in that post in Medium saying that implying that Elizabeth Warren and liberal Democrats are elitist when it comes to listening to views that are not their own. Is this a problem that's going to hit Democrats in 2020?
No, not really, because you got plenty of people out there who hate Donald Trump, and look, you could run a cheese sandwich in a bag, right, and that will probably get 48% of the vote against Donald Trump. He's excruciatingly unpopular, and for all predictions, we will probably be in a slowed down economy by the spring, which will hurt him as well. And I think, look, if Democrats are smart, yes, it's a big tent party. So you've got liberal Democrats who run here and moderate Democrats who run there, and this idea that the only way that you can win a presidential election is by running some sort of magical moderate person who's a combination of Mayor Pete's age and you know Ayanna Presley's sort of looks and all the other sorts of things. You're not going to come up with this perfect person, right? You need to come up with a dynamic candidate. There is no magical centrist, and so I think Democrats need to rally around whoever they want to rally around, whether that ends up being Joe Biden, whether that ends up being Elizabeth Warren, whether that ends up being you know, Kamala Harris, whoever they want to rally around. Make that person win. Whoever is electable is who people rally around, not who hits some sort of magical demographic.
Jason, Lanhee, stay with us. After the break, I'm going to get these two gentlemen's take on the new tightening poll numbers in the critical state of Iowa when the 11th hour continues.